Joining us now, as he does, is our friend Mr. Neil Greenberg. Hello, Neil. How do you do?
I'm doing super. How are you?
We are good, brother. Lots to discuss with your Washington Commanders. I said yesterday, I might have teased this, that this time last year, Commanders were 2-0, and the city was fired up, and you were catching shrapnel all over town because you said, yo, I know they're 2-0, but they still stink. You were proved correct.
Weekly, he said that.
By the way, you were proved correct. Now, they're 1-1, but I'm not so sure they stink. Where are we at?
Well, the numbers, like the betting markets and some of the underlying metrics, aren't real favorable for Washington. I have them as a bottom four team in that regard. But I think there's a lot of context that needs to be put around Washington and their performance and Jayden Daniels' performance, et cetera. I don't think this is a team that you can really kind of analyze with the metrics the way we can a more established team like the Bills or the Eagles. I think there's just a lot happening with Washington that is divorcing their actual performance from the underlying stats to what the coaches are trying to do with this team this season.
Explain that a little bit more.
Okay, so Jayden Daniels, his performance looks good or poor depending on what you're looking at. So like the game charts at Pro Football Focus have him as below average. ESPN's total quarterback rating has him below average. But he you can see the coaches are trying to bring him along slowly. So I'll give you an example. So in the first quarter of games, he's seeing a lot of zone coverage. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to get quicker passes out, sometimes at or behind the line of scrimmage. His average depth of target isn't that far. So he's not going to look successful on paper doing that, but he's seeing zone coverage about 80% of the time in the first quarter. And then it starts to open up as, the defenses see what he's doing, so then they kind of transition more to man coverage. So then he starts to open it up a little bit. We're seeing the offense open up. He's starting to take more shots down the field, and that progresses, and then they get maybe a little bit more conservative in the fourth quarter, but, they're still kind of bringing him along. So I can see the vision of the coaching staff, what they're trying to do, and I don't necessarily think like the metrics matter because you have a rookie quarterback that they're trying to get to learn the NFL. So I don't really think that you can look at Washington and say they're 4 points worse than an average team or they're 2 points better than an average team. You have to look at them as saying, this is a team in transition trying to bring along a rookie quarterback. Some games it's going to work, some games it isn't. But really the main thread for this season is get Jayden through the season healthy and see some progression from game 1 to game 17.
That said, where do you land on what we've seen so far from Jayden through 2 games?
I think he's looked good. I mean, he's running the football. He's showing that he can make some throws. He's obviously the best of the rookie quarterbacks this season. Caleb Williams and Bo Nix are the two that come to mind. So I think he's doing fine. I mean, he doesn't have many what Pro Football Focus says are turnover-worthy throws. He only has 1 of those. Caleb Williams and Bo Nix have 9 combined. So I really do think there's a lot to like for what Jayden Daniels is doing. I'd like to see them open the offense a little bit more, a little bit earlier. But again, I mean, the coaching staff knows their players better than I do. So I think that so far he's looking really good.
I tend to agree with you. Sorry, go ahead, Lee.
No, I was like the draft every year, we always talk about what people can't do. And I think analytics a little bit has come where you do things after the fact and you always talk about what somebody didn't do. What in analytics tell me about how good that a person is doing? I think even if they didn't do what the analytics said they should have done, but they had success, what happens and how do they calculate that?
You mean like how do we have perfect hindsight?
What I hear most times is what a person didn't do, what a person can't do. I want to hear what the hell he did do. Like, and I think
Yeah,
sometimes
I mean it's a good point. I mean, we're kind of always looking backwards. I think what Jayden is doing well, and what I think the analytics will kind of bear this out, is he's not getting himself into trouble. He's not making bonehead plays. I know some people are criticizing maybe he's running too much, and I understand that argument. I don't know if I agree with the argument, but I understand it based on trying to keep him healthy and upright and all that other stuff. But I think Daniels is showing that he can navigate and make the transition from college to the pros. And we're seeing that that's not always the case with these quarterbacks that are taken high in the draft. Does he have stuff to work on? Of course, we all do. But I do think that he is executing what the coaching staff is asking him to do, and that's be conservative earlier in the game, start to open it up, be able to read what's going on downfield, be able to read what the defenses are doing, and I think all of that will be expressed in the analytics. Now you'll have to maybe hunt for those, right? Because like the all-in-one numbers may not be favorable for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that if at the end of the season, you ask the coaching staff, what were your goals at the beginning of the season? I think Daniels is going to check a lot of those boxes.
I think through 2 games, watching, being there, looking at the numbers, whatever metric you want to measure with Daniels, you got to be encouraged. And it's only 2 games. They got to play 15 more. He's got to stay healthy. But I keep going back to the fact that he doesn't turn the ball over. Oh, and by the way, he just led a game-winning drive. Like there was once upon a time when like game-winning drives were stats that people kept track of, right? Now that is all kind of shifted, and I know it's still on Pro Football Reference and stuff, but I don't know. The kid has shown a lot to me. I noticed a tweet you had that I need you to understand. You can follow Greenberg at ngreenberg. This is from Deep Value Better that you quote tweeted. EDP. Help me understand EDP. Not ED landfill. They got pills for that. EDP. EDP, where the Commanders land 6th.
Right. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to look at the drives and figure out what should the points have been at the end of the drive based on everything that happened, right? So, football can be fluky, fumble, an errant bounce, knocks off the hands, flips into a defender, interception, etc. So they're looking at, if we see 100 of these drives made up of these components, a 6-yard pass, a 7-yard run, etc., how many points should they come away with? And it just tries to get at the talent of the team and try to strip away a lot of the noise that we see from the fluky stuff that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, Washington is 6th in that metric, which means that their drives are really solid. Now they're 1-1, and maybe we're not seeing like the scoreboard part of it.
Yeah.
But from a X's and O's execution, things going the right way, Washington's doing a lot of the right things right. And ultimately, that's going to lead to success down the road. Now, it may not be in 2024, but what we're seeing is that Washington is becoming a very efficient team with this offense, which is surprising considering how many new parts they have.
I think when you look at Jayden and you look at the fact that they move the ball, they get into scoring position, just me looking at it, not worrying about no analytics or numbers, if they keep getting there, eventually they're going to get better at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, I don't think I have to put numbers to know. If a person keeps getting inside the 30, they're going to start getting in the end zone eventually.
Right, and that's exactly what this is trying to measure. So it's trying to measure that of, a goal line fumble and it going the other way. It's still giving you credit for the drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think a lot of times we say, oh, that drive produced 0 points. But if you march 90 yards down the field, there was a lot of things that went right.
Yeah.
And that's what some of those metrics are trying to kind of give you. So yeah, I mean, we see that in the NFL all the time. Week 1, 2 teams winning without offensive touchdowns. Even though they were 1-0, you absolutely cannot rely on that type of success going forward. So that's kind of the similar type of thing that we're looking at with some of these metrics.
Neil, go ahead.
All the penalties that they had. I mean, these false starts. That derails a whole damn drive, and that pops up. Who do that get charted up to or blamed to?
Well, you got to blame the coaching staff, I think, in some ways to kind of get them prepared for that. We talked about earlier a lot of new parts, a lot of new faces. So it's just the timing of it. I mean, everyone's learning how to play together. I know they had some preseason games, but it's nothing like regular season football. I'm not surprised by those type of penalties. I'd much rather see those type of penalties, which I think could be corrected, than just constant defensive interference or just these plays that you want to just tear into a player and you'd bench him if you could, and it just drives you insane.
Yes.
So I look at those as being correctable. You can go in the film room, you can practice that with cadence and all that other stuff. But again, I mean, there's going to be growing pains. Better those type of growing pains than Jayden Daniels throwing 5 interceptions or just absolutely missing reads down the field.
I'm with you there. I think offensively, there's real reasons for optimism. You got any reasons for optimism defensively?
Boy, this defense is a conundrum. I mean, it's the secondary mostly, right? I mean,
is it the secondary mostly? Because people say that. I think that's the easy thing to say.
Well, yeah, I mean,
the consistent pressure is not on the quarterback either.
Yeah, I look. The defense is tough. I mean, the run defense is good, is very good. I think that their tackling could be better. I think that the pass rush could be better. And I think those two things, kind of, if you can't tackle, the defense is going to look a lot worse, right? It doesn't really matter what else that you do. You can have perfect coverage. If you're not able to tackle, then it's all going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's just a lot of things on defense that need to be addressed. It's really surprising because a couple of years ago we were talking about how good this defense was and, had all the parts and, if they could just get the offense together, everything's going to be good. But that's what happens with the NFL. So I think, tackling would probably be a major concern, if you want to give the secondary some slack, which I understand. But I think that tackling could be a real issue.
That is.
Let's zoom out or quickly. How you feeling about Monday Night Football against the Bengals for this team?
That's a tough one. I like the Bengals. I don't like the number necessarily, but I like the Bengals even though they're 0-2. But again, you don't know which Washington team is going to show up. You don't know if it's going to be the one that is trying to get the kinks out of the offense, or is it one where they say, you know what, we're opening it up from snap number 1. Jayden, go do your thing. The defense can hold it together, and next thing you know, maybe you have a tight game going into the fourth quarter. So, again, I mean, it's really hard to read what's going to happen with Washington. Do I think Cincinnati is the better team? Yes. But do I think there's an absolute scenario where Washington can come in and start playing the type of football that they want to play and they kind of take the training wheels off, for lack of a better term, off of Jayden Daniels in the offense, and they're very competitive in this game? I can absolutely see that too.
I would love to